Hey everyone, welcome back to another week with Moving to Georgia. My name is Sarah Maslowski and I am your North Metro Atlanta real estate agent. My team and I help people from all over relocate right here. And today we're going to dig into the number one city in all of the US as named by US News World and Report. And we're going to dig into which Metro Atlanta city that is. I'm sure if you're watching, you already know, right? It's in the title, but we're going to talk about it. So if you're joining us, welcome. Let me know where you're watching from. If you follow me on Instagram, you will know that we had one of the rainiest weeks that we have had all year long, starting Memorial Day weekend, and it felt like it rained forever and ever and ever. And so shared a funny video with y'all over on Instagram. If you're not following me over there, make sure you do, because we're posting lots of great information on news and information that you need to know here in the North Metro Atlanta area, and hopefully making you laugh every now and then. So let's dive into today's topic, which is that Johns Creek was named one of the best places to live, or not one of, it was named the best place to live in all of the United States. And this was named by US News and World Report. And some of their reasonings behind this are a little bit questionable, but I'm going to get your opinion and you're going to let me know what you think and see if we agree with this. So let's look at the other towns that were named and that made it into the top 10. This was the only Georgia town that made it into the top 10 list. You can see Carmel, Indiana, and then Pearland, Texas. Let's see what these other towns are. Oh, hitting wrong buttons behind the scenes here. Okay. Fishers, Indiana, Cary, North Carolina, League City, Texas, Apex, North Carolina, Leander, Texas. I'm so shocked at all of these Texas places because, I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but Texas just seems so flat and boring and hot and dry and just boring and no trees. I love having trees. And that's one of the comments that we get a lot from people that move here or thinking about moving here, and they come and visit and they're like, oh my gosh, it's just so green. There's stuff everywhere. So let's dig into why US News World Report named Johns Creek the best place to live in 2025-2026. It states that Johns Creek, Georgia offers a higher quality of life with top-rated schools, safe neighborhoods, and a strong sense of community. And I would say that all of those things are very true. And I would say that this also kind of has a little bit of a caveat, but we're going to get to this. But just curious, if you're joining us on the live stream, if you've ever been to Johns Creek, maybe you live in the area, I would love to know your thoughts on what you think it's like living in Johns Creek, or if you've been to the area, let me know. Drop that in the comments. So Johns Creek, one of the reasons that they say that Johns Creek is so good is for a few reasons, talking about like higher value of living. And then we've got a convenient location, diverse community in an established area, an abundance of activities. So let's dig into each of these kind of one by one and talk about what you need to know. So first, let's look at the location of Johns Creek. One of the great things about Johns Creek is that it gives you suburban living outside of the hustle and bustle of Atlanta, but really close to Atlanta. So you're only 20 miles outside of Atlanta. Let's check this out on a map. So here outlined in red, you've got Johns Creek. We're just outside of the perimeter. So if you can see this ring that goes all the way around Atlanta, that's 285. Anything inside that is going to be considered inside the perimeter. Anything outside of that is obviously outside of the perimeter. And Johns Creek just offers a really nice suburb that checks all of the boxes, and you're so close to Atlanta that if you have to commute or go into inside the perimeter for a job, that type of thing, you are in a great location to be able to do that. It's very easy to get into Atlanta from Johns Creek. And you've got really good other towns kind of surrounding you. Now, one thing whenever I talk to clients about Johns Creek is you are practically Johns Creek and Alpharetta. I feel like they're one and the same. And in fact, Johns Creek used to be a part of Alpharetta. So it broke away sometime in the 90s, formed its own city. And so you can have some neighborhoods, especially right here along the border, where you have some addresses that show up as Johns Creek, some addresses that show up as Alpharetta. Heck, sometimes you'll see on different websites, you'll see homes. One will display Alpharetta and one will display Johns Creek. And it's the exact same home, same address. And, Alpharetta, Johns Creek, it's half a dozen of one, 6 of the other. Is that the saying? Lone One says, kind of shocked that Alpharetta didn't take its place, considering Alpharetta's talked about a lot. I agree. And, again, I think you can just substitute one for the other, especially when you look at a lot of the things that are the reason that it made this list. So location, great schools, the homes, the way things look, all of those are checking the boxes. And there is one area that I really think Alpharetta just takes the cake over Johns Creek. And we'll get to that a little bit. But when it comes to location there, you've got Alpharetta nearby, Duluth, Peachtree Corners, Roswell. So you've got all these great little towns that you can enjoy nearby, which is really, really great. But Johns Creek itself is very, very much nothing but a bunch of neighborhoods. And if you drive around Johns Creek, you are just going to see neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood, a park, a grocery store, shopping center, cute little dentist office and things like that, and cute brick buildings, and then neighborhood, 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 school, more neighborhood, if you get what I'm saying. So it is a very much of a neighborhood heavy area. And the reason for that is that these were a lot of the neighborhoods that were in Alpharetta at one point, right? So there's not a ton of commercial development or retail development in Johns Creek. And that's probably one of the downsides that I would say when it comes to Johns Creek, is that, if you want to go to Target or if you want to go to Trader Joe's, something like that, you are having to drive to one of the nearby towns. Now, there's a lot in the works and in development happening in Johns Creek, which we're going to get to and share that good news with you. But currently, as it sits today, this is how it is. And sometimes I have clients that consider Johns Creek and then they say, but where's the nearest grocery store? And I'm like, oh, well, it's just right there, but it's actually going to take you 10 minutes because of, how you have to go. And it's like, they don't want to deal with that. So something to keep in mind. However, the area is very beautiful, incredibly well manicured city. So if you were looking for somewhere that is aesthetically pleasing, Johns Creek is going to check the boxes when it comes to living in a very pretty area. Oftentimes I'll hear clients say, oh, we drove by that area. It is just so pretty. Not to say that other areas around are not as pretty, but because you just have so many residential neighborhoods around, and all of those pretty much have HOAs where you've got these beautiful entrances, and the city itself, they do a great job of maintaining sidewalks and street signs and all those great things. So it just looks very pretty. Now, I think an important next step for us to talk about, if we're going to talk about this, is the cost of homes in the area. So let's look at housing. Now, U.S. News and World Report called Johns Creek one of the best places to live because they felt like it gave you the most bang for your money when it comes to quality of living. Now, the quality of living in Johns Creek is going to cost you. This area has a very high average price point. So let's look at that. Here we go. So I've got 3 different areas pulled up here. Let's get back over here so you can see it better. All right, we got Johns Creek in green. So the median sales price of a house in Johns Creek last month was $880,000. In Alpharetta, $800,000, and if you look nearby at Swanee, $600,000. So quite a bit of a difference in Johns Creek. Typically, if you're living in Johns Creek, one of the reasons for that higher factor in price is because it's a little bit closer into Atlanta. So, and Alpharetta has a little bit more diversity of land in terms of having a little bit more diverse price points in some neighborhoods. Fantastic areas. They both offer pretty much the exact same thing when it comes to housing, but you are going to almost with 95% certainty be in a neighborhood with an HOA, and you are likely going to be in a neighborhood with tons of other families, lots of kids. This is very much a very family forward area. And this shows up a lot too in the parks that they offer in Johns Creek. So Johns Creek is going to have a ton of fantastic parks that you can take advantage of. And this makes it one of the reasons why it's such a great place to live. One of my absolute favorite parks in Johns Creek has to be Newtown Park. This area has the best dog park, and I think it was named the best dog park in the United States, according to USA Today. So you've got a fantastic area. I was just here yesterday, actually, getting some video footage for a reel that we put out on Instagram, or will be putting out on Instagram. But it was just so nice. You've got people really taking advantage of this park. Not only do you have the dog park, but you also have lacrosse fields, and you've got an amphitheater. You've got tons of walkways. You've got a senior center, community clubhouse, community garden, baseball fields, everything that you could want. And this is just one of the few parks that the area of Johns Creek has. There's just tons all over. So, saw lots of families there and young children picnicking and playing on the playgrounds with their kids. Lots of summer programs and, great things to take advantage of. And this definitely kind of helps with the aesthetic of the area and definitely ranks really high. And I can see where U.S. News and World Report would say, yes, this is a really fantastic place to live. One of the other things that I thought was kind of funny is that the article mentioned the low crime of Johns Creek. And Johns Creek does have low crime. I would also say that the demographics and kind of like just the makeup and overall of the people that can afford that $800,000 price point, well, there's not really low income area where there tends to be a disproportionately higher crime rate when you're looking at those areas. Like Johns Creek just simply doesn't have that. It doesn't feel like there is the wrong side of the tracks, so to speak, if you're looking at the Johns Creek area, because it's nothing but these incredibly nice neighborhoods. And if you're looking for a gated neighborhood, Johns Creek offers an abundance of gated neighborhoods, which is a little bit funny to me because this isn't an area where you need a gated neighborhood. And in fact, in my opinion, again, my opinion here, so do your own research. But, sometimes I'll have clients reach out and say, hey, we want to be in a gated neighborhood and we want to be somewhere that's really safe. Well, the Metro Atlanta area would not be so incredibly popular and have all of these great ratings and making all of these lists if families and other people weren't seeking them out, developers weren't seeking them out for economic development in areas that were not safe. And so oftentimes I feel like it's just more of a aesthetic thing for the neighborhood or a prestige symbol for the neighborhood in terms of having something gated, but it's not as if it's something that the area demands because of how things are. So if you're just joining us, we are talking about why Johns Creek was named the #1 place in all of the U.S. to live. It's a little bit surprising to me. So if you're just joining, welcome. Let me know where you're watching from, and let me know if there's any other towns that you're considering or have questions about, or if you have any questions about the real estate market, thinking about making the move. Love for us to talk about that. But while I'm waiting for your questions, we're going to talk a little bit more about Johns Creek and what makes it so good, and also kind of some of the downsides to Johns Creek. So thank you for for being here and watching along. Yes, almost. That sounded very Southern when I said it that way. Okay, so the great schools are another reason that Johns Creek ranks so highly. And if we look at, I thought this was a very interesting map to show you. Pause. We're getting there. Okay. So if we look at the best schools in the area, I like to use this website, greatschools.org. It's very helpful when looking at ratings and rankings of school districts. We've got Johns Creek, and as you can see, it's just covered up in 8, 9s, and 10s. And this is very indicative of what it's just like living in this area in Metro Atlanta. You can practically throw a dart, land on a house, and it's going to be in a fantastic school district. So you don't really have to worry so much about, oh, we only want to be in this particular zip code, or we only want to be in this small section because this is the only elementary, middle, and high school that has a high ranking. So those are some things to know, is that, it makes up a large portion of the schools there that are going to have these high rankings. But if we look at that whole geographic kind of region there, Alpharetta is going to show up the exact same way, as is most of Suwanee and Duluth. You're going to have fantastic schools there. So the good thing is that let's just say that you love the area of Johns Creek, but maybe you don't want to spend a median price of almost $900,000 on a home. Maybe you're looking around 6 or 7. You have these other suburbs around that also offer all of these great things that you can look forward to. So parks and great schools and beautiful area. And the proximity to Atlanta. So there's lots of places that check off a lot of these boxes. And, Johns Creek just checks off quite a bit of them. So you've got really, really great schools in the area. And again, not something that you really have to worry about. Now, one of the things that you do have to worry about that we mentioned earlier is kind of like the lack of shopping. There's not very much retail shopping when it comes to Johns Creek. The good thing, though, is that Alpharetta is only 10, 15 minutes away, depending upon where you're at in Johns Creek. And then you've got a whole world of shopping over there, right? You've also got really cute downtown Alpharetta to explore. Johns Creek does not have a cute downtown area, doesn't have a downtown area at all. And that's because it used to be part of Alpharetta and broke away and formed its own city. So if you're looking for an area that has like a very charming downtown destination for you, Johns Creek's not going to be it. You can go to Alpharetta and you can go to nearby Duluth, which has an amazing, cute little downtown area. So in order to kind of answer this problem for the area of Johns Creek, where there's not a true community hub per se, they are in the works of developing that for Johns Creek. And that is an area known as the Medley, which is in the process of being developed. That's not what we need. We need this. So the Medley is in the process of being developed. This is going to be Johns Creek answer to the Avalon in Alpharetta, which is a great live, work, play, outdoor shopping center. The same folks that brought you the Avalon are also bringing you the Medley. They've broken ground on this. We're still 511 days away from actually seeing this to fruition, but good things come to those who wait, right? So it's going to have over 200,000 square feet of retail, 110,000 office, 150 townhomes, and 750 luxury rental homes. So there's already been announced some of the restaurants that are coming to the area, and it is going to be great. So it's really exciting to see this being developed. And even if you don't live in Johns Creek, this is going to be some place that if you live in the North Metro Atlanta area, you're likely going to find yourself driving to spend an afternoon, evening there oh, we couldn't see the Medley. Sorry. Let me fix that. Okay. That's not the right tab. There we go. This is the right tab. So this is the great view of what the Medley is going to look like. We should be able to see this now. And, again, if you've been to the Avalon, this is going to essentially look very, very similar to the Avalon. I'm sure it's going to have some advantages to the Avalon. We've got 511 days, again, to wait on this to be built, but it's going to be beautiful. And a lot of good things to look forward to when it comes to this. But like I was saying, if you live here in the area, this, just like the Avalon, is a place that you would likely visit to go shopping and enjoy a nice evening date, take the kids someplace different and get out of the house. The Medley is going to be this place for you as well. So I'm looking forward to it. About once a month, my husband and I will drive over from Gainesville to Avalon to check out, just explore, window shop, go into some stores and have a really nice meal because they have some fantastic restaurants over there. So the Medley is going to be a very, very exciting place that can offer some of the same things to us or just a little bit more to offer. Great question, Pike. Is there an up and coming area that you would say is the next Johns Creek? So while not necessarily Johns Creek, I will say the next up and coming area is definitely Cumming. That is just north of Alpharetta on Georgia 400. And Cumming is actually, Forsyth County is one of the, I think, the third fastest growing county in all of Georgia. A lot of the demand of the Johns Creek Alpharetta area has pushed up into Forsyth County, which is just above Alpharetta, because of the lack of a little bit more affordable housing, the lack of new construction. So that is a downside to Johns Creek and Alpharetta. If you are wanting new construction, it's virtually impossible to find unless you're willing to be in a townhome and still pay a pretty hefty price to live in a townhouse. If you're wanting, a third of an acre, new construction, you're going to find that in abundance in Cumming. So there's a lot of growth and development happening there. There is a major development on the horizon in Cumming called The Gathering, which we've talked about quite a bit here on the channel. And that is, they're projected or hoping to bring in an NHL hockey team to that facility. It's going to be like an arena, concerts, but also the outdoor shopping venue as well. So investment wise, I think Cumming is a very great place to look into in terms of future home price appreciation. And it also gives you really great close proximity to Alpharetta or Johns Creek area if you're having to commute to those areas for jobs. So one of the reasons that Johns Creek ranked so highly was because of its great job market. And that goes hand in hand with Alpharetta. So Alpharetta is kind of known as the tech hub of the South because there's so many industries that have their headquarters there. Mercedes-Benz just recently announced that they're moving. Their headquarters is now going to be in the Johns Creek, Alpharetta area. They already have a big office here, but more jobs are coming to the area. So it just keeps happening and keeps growing. So Cumming is definitely up and coming, if not already, very popular. But the other town that I think should be on your radar, it's not going to touch Johns Creek in terms of like the prestige or, gated communities per se. But the town of Gainesville is growing quite a bit. And in the next 5 years, it's going to look drastically different than what it looks like now. In fact, Gainesville was just recently named as one of Southern Living's best up-and-coming cities of 2025. And so that's something to keep on your radar too, especially if you are looking for an area that gives you a good quality of life. You kind of still want to feel like you're in a small town and, you want to find a great house for between $500,000 and $600,000. That's going to give you a really, really great option of where to look. So good question. Lone One says, I do think that because some of the suburbs are close together, going from one burb to another, you don't notice huge differences. That is a fantastic point. So when we have clients that are relocating to the area, they come into town for exploratory trips or we're out house hunting, it is not uncommon for us to drive from one home to another and they get out of the car and they're like, okay, what city are we in? So for me, growing up in South Georgia, when you left town, you knew that you left town because all you saw was pine trees, and then you had to like wait for a good gas station to hopefully magically appear in 15 miles so that you could get gas if you needed gas. Here, you just drive from one, well, you don't even know that you've left town because everything just blends into one another so perfectly. And you truly don't know where you're at because it is such a homogenous area for the most part. Not until you get into kind of like Cumming, Gainesville area, and then you start driving. Then up there, you can definitely feel a difference in terms of maybe, let's say, leaving town. But especially in that area between Alpharetta, Johns Creek, Duluth, Peachtree Corners, Swanee, eventually you kind of know that you're in someplace else, but they all offer a lot of very similar things. And so that is why I have a conversation with clients and I'm like, hey, if you want to live here, but we can't find exactly what you want, are you okay with being 10 minutes away and still having the opportunity to drive to all these great parks, or maybe this particular, thing that you want to take advantage of? How often are you really going to come here? I have that conversation quite a bit with clients that just love the Alpharetta area. We pretty much like that area because of the great shopping and the restaurants that it offers. And if it's something that you're only going to visit once or twice a month, wouldn't you rather live somewhere 15 minutes away that still offers you good schools, but where you can get a much better house for your money? And then you can just drive the 15 minutes whenever you want to take advantage of all those things. So some of the pros and cons that we weigh whenever we're helping you strategize exactly where you want to be. If you're joining us here on the live stream, thank you for being here. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about making a move here to the North Metro Atlanta area, or if you've been to Johns Creek and you have any opinions on what it's like living here. I would love to know your thoughts. When it comes to the traffic of Johns Creek, you're not going to experience much traffic in the sense of there's not a very many major interstates running through Johns Creek, right? It's not. It's in the middle. Let's see. Let me pull that map back up because I think that would be helpful for us to see. So again, you've got Johns Creek here. You've got Highway 141 that takes you right down into 285 and into Atlanta if you need to get there. But for the most part, you're sandwiched in between 85 and this is Georgia 400, Highway 19. That gives you kind of like a little bit of insulation where it's like really people are just driving home to their neighborhoods or driving to the grocery store. So you've got just a lot of residential traffic, I would say. And of course, during time periods where it's, oh, I did it again. Y'all couldn't see. Sorry, forgot to push that button. But you can see that Johns Creek right there is, in between. Lone One says, how are the prices in Lawrenceville or Decula? So Lawrenceville and Decula are going to be much more affordable than Johns Creek. So if we zoom out, Lawrenceville and Decula are going to be here and here in relation to Johns Creek and Alpharetta. So much, much more affordable. Let's see here. If we go back and look at this tab, so we'll keep Johns Creek up there. Let's add in Lawrenceville, and also we'll add in Decula. Okay, so we've got Lawrenceville in yellow. The median sales price of a home in Lawrenceville is just at $400,000. And then if we look at Decula, just a little bit higher than that at $441,000. So you're going to get a little bit more of, I don't want to say a rural feel, just a little bit more spread out feel in Lawrenceville and Decula than you have in Johns Creek. Still tons of great family-friendly neighborhoods there with a ton of families, but definitely more affordable, which makes it, better. And again, there's there's tons of great options all around the Metro Atlanta area. So lots to take advantage of. Now, when it comes to what's happening in the real estate market right now, you are definitely going to see that Johns Creek is holding pretty steady, as is Alpharetta. But if we look elsewhere across Metro Atlanta, it's a great opportunity for buyers. Oftentimes, we are finding that there's more sellers right now in the market than what we have buyers. And so we're inching our way back towards a buyer's market, which is fantastic news. Because for those of y'all that are relocating here, you have an opportunity to take advantage and negotiate a little bit more on your behalf when it comes to these sellers who are really needing to sell. Especially homes that have been on the market for more than 3 to 4 weeks, it's a prime opportunity to take advantage of the real estate market right now. Now, if you are in the market for a new construction home, you're going to have even more advantages in the real estate market right now, because pretty much across the board, builders are offering great incentives for buyers. Not only are they offering really great prices on the house, but for the most part, they're also giving you a permanent rate buy down and or closing cost. And sometimes when you put all three of those together, it just makes for a really fantastic deal that can make it hard to then go back and look at resale, because resale sellers, they don't have the option to, offer you a permanent 5.5% interest rate on your house and $15,000 towards closing costs. And oh, by the way, everything's brand new. They just can't compete. So lots to take advantage of there. Let me know if you have any questions about making a move or have any comments or opinions about what's going on. I'm curious to know your thoughts as to what you think is happening in the real estate market, or kind of what's ahead this year. We're almost to the halfway point in the year here in the real estate market. And for the most part, it's kind of turning out to be how it was last year. In my opinion, I feel like we're seeing a little bit more negotiation room for buyers, as we just talked about, compared to last year. But overall, pretty much flat. And so that can be good in the sense that we're not seeing, wild home price appreciation. Maybe bad in the sense that we're not seeing, aggressive price drops on homes. So it's still not making that affordability factor better, but it's holding steady. So it gives us a little bit more certainty in the market in terms of what's happening right now, and getting us back to kind of like that, balanced market. Yeah, that's a great point. If you could afford Johns Creek, you'd be content with living further out. I agree. I will say the only thing I'm jealous of Johns Creek is, as I'm getting older, I'm enjoying walking a lot more. And I do wish that some of these areas, well, there's a lot of great parks around. I'll just say, like in Gainesville, where I live, there's not a ton of great parks for walking. And I see some of these other communities have, these really robust parks with lots of trails and stuff like that. So that's the one thing that I'm jealous of Johns Creek for. But yeah, there's a lot to love about that. And in my opinion, I don't think it's like the best place to live in the United States. I do think that when you combine any area that has really fantastic school systems, a really high average price point, and low crime rate, aren't they all pretty much going to feel kind of the same? So how do you really pick the best one? I don't know. I think if you have a lot of money to throw at a problem, it's going to solve a bunch of the other problems that maybe cause it not to be the best place to live. Just my 2 cents. Yeah, curious to know what you think. Is anybody watching from Texas? Let me know what's so great, or why so many Texas cities popped up on that. I think, Lone One said that Texas's main appeal is the strong job market, no income tax. Yes, more land to build homes there for sure. But don't you want like trees and things to do? I don't know. I've never been to Texas. No, I have been to Texas. What am I saying? Like Houston and Dallas, San Antonio, but it's been a while to go there. Do I think Atlanta's a superior metro in the South? I do. I think one of the biggest advantages that Atlanta has is You have so many great suburbs, right? We get truly 4 seasons here, which I love. You know, it can get hot, but you're going to have a fall. You're going to have a true winter. You're going to have a spring. Growing up in South Georgia, it was like hot, not so hot, but all the time it was still pretty much hot. So that's one of the things I love living here is the weather. And then you've got the proximity to the North Georgia mountains. And so it just really makes for this unique hub for a lot of great stuff and, tons of great economic development that's happening here in the area, the airport, the sports teams, all of these things that make for a really great place to live. Maybe somewhere in North Carolina, Charlotte, I don't know, but then it doesn't have the sports teams, does it? I don't know. So, but yeah, I would agree with that. All right. If you have any more questions, make sure you drop those in the comments. If you're not following me over on Instagram, join me over there. Posting every single day about what's happening here in the North Metro Atlanta area and keeping you up to date on everything that you need to know. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that because we post videos every single Monday, giving you information about what it's like living here and helping you decide where is the best place in Metro Atlanta for you to live, and helping you keep up to date with everything that's happening here. So make sure you're subscribed every single Monday, a brand new video. We go live on the channel twice a month, every other Wednesday to answer your questions and bring you kind of like the latest and greatest on the housing market here. So join us. And I appreciate you being here tonight and learning more about Johns Creek. If there's a question that we did not get to, make sure that you put that in the chat and we'll be happy to answer that. And I look forward to seeing y'all next time we get together here live. Thanks for being here.